Welcome students to the first video. I'm going to try and walk through the PowerPoint with you so we don't have to do this in class. So on the assignments and unit materials page on Schoology, just go to your Unit 5 Economic Geography folder, and at the very top I placed your PowerPoint, which will open in Schoology for you. I don't know why it opens at 132%. We'll set that back to 100%. We can read that. So, Economic Geography. Now, this PowerPoint covers Chapter 17 and 18. Chapter 19, you're on your own with the textbook. The questions we start with in Chapter 17. How do different societies around the world meet their economic needs? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of each economic system? Remember that these are questions you should be able to answer upon finishing reading this chapter. So economics is the study of how individuals, businesses, and nations make things, buy things, spend money, and save money. The people who study economics are called economists. If at any time you hear noises in the background, please ignore those. Those are my wife trying to play tricks on me. There's a basic problem in economics, the problem of scarcity. Scarcity, or something being scarce, means difficult to get. People have unlimited wants, but society can only produce a limited amount of things for those wants. What do we want? We want goods, or the objects that we make, that we can own, and services, which are the things people do for others, the actions you take that help another. Scarcity forces answers to these, the basic economic questions, which every society and culture must answer. 1. What to produce. 2. How to produce it. And 3. Who will get what is produced. The way a society answers these questions is known as its economic system. There are 4 major economic systems that we will study. The first, traditional. The second, free enterprise. The third, communist. And the fourth, socialist. Traditional economy is a non-industrial, primarily agricultural economy. Agricultural meaning growing things. It is a farming-based economy. They're not producing manufactured goods. They're not operating factories. They are simply working the land. Their basic economic questions, those 3 questions we looked at, are answered by tradition, where it is centered around the family or tribe, where they get all of their knowledge and their skill from their ancestors, from their parents, from other family members, and it is passed down from generation to generation. This means that new ideas are discouraged and there is very little trade because there's no innovation. There are no new ideas to improve their lives. They instead are doing the same thing generation after generation. No country today has this economy, but there are developing countries on the lower end of the industrial spectrum where this type of economic system exists in small areas. My examples here are the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert in South Africa, the Berber tribesmen of Algeria, villages of South Asia, etc. Areas where the country as a whole has moved on, but these individual areas have not. In traditional production, we focus on subsistence agriculture, where the land only produces enough crops to feed the farmer's family. There is no surplus, no extra, therefore no trade. They don't make money off of it, they just live off of it. And cottage industries, which we looked at Function of the City, where goods are produced in the home during their spare time, where families will produce items for personal use or small sales, but nothing in such quantity that they can make a lot of money off of it. I have here pictures of traditional activities which you can look at. And we move on to the second economic system, free enterprise, also known as capitalism or the free market system. Okay. People, in this case capitalists, will own their own goods and property with the purpose of making a profit, which is money remaining after paying their expenses. So it costs money to produce something, but if they can sell that thing for more money than it costs to make it, they have therefore made a profit and become capitalists. In a free enterprise or free market system, there is limited government involvement, only serving to make fair rules. The reason it's called free market is that it is free of government influence. The government makes sure that everyone can play fair, but does not impose upon them any kind of real rule about what to do. People choose what to sell and what to buy through supply and demand. Supply is how much of a good that producers, the people making the goods, are willing to make and sell. Demand is how much of a good consumers or customers want. When demand goes up, the price goes up because supply has not matched it yet. The more people want something, the more expensive it's going to be unless the producers begin making more of it. When supply goes up and there's a lot of something available, but demand does not go up, so there is no more people who want it, the price will go down. So producers will provide a supply equal to demand to create stable prices. They do not want extreme fluctuations in price. In a free enterprise productive society, you have commercial agriculture, where you're growing crops with the intent to sell them, not to support your family. And new technology like tractors allows for the cheap mass production of crops, which you can then sell for a cheap price to grocery stores, who then pass on the savings to the customers. There are also commercial industries where they manufacture goods in factories for sale to other businesses or consumers. Okay. I have here some pictures of free enterprise. Communism, our next economic system, was developed in the 1800s by Karl Marx, a philosopher in Germany, in response to what he perceived as faults in capitalism. Capitalism gives rise to greed, where you're out for your own profit. You may not be focused on the person next to you. Karl Marx saw this as a problem, so he decided that a better system would be the government owning all goods and services of production, lands, factories, farms, major resources, in a sort of communal ownership, communism, where the people as a whole, the community, will make decisions since the people make up the government. So you can have a communist democracy. Ignore what they talk about in communist Cuba and communist Soviet Union. Those were totalitarian states, dictatorships, or oligarchies. Communism was their economic system, not their government system. Communism forces equality by making workers labor together, be paid the same, and have no classes. So no matter what you do, you're still making the same amount of money. The government will determine what, how, and for whom your goods and services are produced. Communism's failing is that it is unable to provide a supply equal to demand, because the government cannot foresee all of the people's desires and needs years in advance. Also, workers all being paid the same gives them no incentive to work harder or to innovate and work better, because they know that they'll still get a paycheck. Finally, corruption grows in communist societies, or at least it has historically, because people would bribe government workers for access to extra or faster goods. Because demand would rise, supply would not, and therefore they would fight to see who could get the goods. I have here a map of communist countries, the majority of whom are former communist and have moved away from that. They are becoming more free enterprise or socialist. This brings us to socialism. Okay. Socialism is a mixture between free enterprise and communism, where the most important businesses producing goods, such as mines and factories, are owned by the government, or socially, where you get socialism. Okay. The government may also own the railroads, airlines, hospitals, banks, utility companies like water and power, mining, oil production, and other major players, the necessities of the people. However, socialism allows for individuals or private owners to control their shops and small manufacturing. So the things you need will come from a government business. The things you want will come from individuals who could be capitalists and make a profit. The government will also provide basic services like healthcare, transportation, education, and housing to remove those worries from people's basic needs. Okay. Now, basic needs are the absolute minimum resources necessary for long-term physical well-being in goods and services. Basically, the minimum amount of anything that you need to survive. These basic needs. The poverty line in America is established as the amount of income or money that you need in order to satisfy these needs, such as food, water, shelter, clothing, and in more advanced societies, sanitation, your sewage, education, and healthcare. I have here an image of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you can see that these basic needs are at the bottom, but as you move up this pyramid, you can move away from the struggle to satisfy these basic needs, and you can start thinking larger thoughts. You can explore deeper meaning. You can begin to expand beyond an animalistic behavior where you are trying to satisfy your basic needs. Now, socialism around the world is occurring in many countries, some of them modeling their economies on it, such as Sweden or Israel. A number of countries were socialist after World War II, but sold off state ownership of industry in the 1980s and 90s in a wave of privatization, where private individuals are able to own these businesses that used to be run by the government because they saw it as more efficient or more money generated. India and Ghana are two currently socialist countries that are moving towards free enterprise. Now, a number of nations in the world are actually mixed economies, which can be called socialism, but we term is simply as gray area of economic systems, where no economy completely follows one economic system. Most countries blend features of both. How actively their government intervenes in the economy determines their place on the spectrum between free enterprise and communism. For instance, normally the firefighters, the police force, access to basic health care, access to your public school education are all provided by the government in America. So even though America considers itself a free market or free enterprise country, it still has government-run businesses providing for basic needs, which is an aspect of socialism. So therefore, America would show up on the mixed economy scale, probably closer to the blue side, but still with some of the red. Okay. I will end this talk on the chapter 17 here, and we will try again with chapter 18 in another video.